I stole from everybody and kept it for myself and lied to everybody the entire time about it. You know, my wife, I married Susan, faked a car accident to get the money to get married and moved from Hazard to Lexington, Kentucky to go to university. She didn't know that I faked a car accident. She didn't know I was a criminal. I kept all that shit hidden from her. When I started to get involved into cybercrime, I simply told her I was reselling shit on eBay. Is what. So I lied to her never had an honest conversation with her at all. And the way she finds out, it took her 3 years, but the way she finds out that I'm a criminal was this. A couple things happened. So I find eBay, and I like the shit out of eBay. I had been doing fraud outside of eBay. I'd been doing some charity fraud stuff, some theft by deception, running some cold checks, stuff like that. All right, but
this was pre-cybercrime.
This
so
is pre-cybercrime.
eBay was your first.
eBay is the first
involving
real
technology.
entry into technology. All right,
Okay.
so I've been doing just the street level frauds. Find eBay, like the shit out of eBay. eBay, this was 90, 95, 96. So find eBay, was obsessed with eBay. I'd spend time just looking at the shit for sale and everything. I didn't have any money, but look at it, and I was just, everybody had that stuff on there. I was like, man, that's outstanding. Got to be some way to make money on it. So didn't know how, and I got a lot of my initial inspiration from Bill O'Reilly. So he was hosting Inside Edition back then. Inside Edition was this 30-minute news tabloid show. The first cybercrime that I committed was about Beanie Babies. He had a show about Beanie Babies. They were profiling this one called Peanut, the Royal Blue Elephant, selling for $1,500 on eBay. I'm sitting there watching it like, shit, he'd get me a peanut. And I was naive as shit at that point, right? So I'm like, well, man, all I got to do, I'm in Kentucky. All I got to do, I'll go around to all the Hallmark stores. They got to be one in a bin someplace. So I skip class the next day, go around to all these stores. Takes me 4 or 5 hours to figure out, no, idiot, he's not in the stores because his ass is on eBay for $1,500. But I ended up ripping a lady off for $1,500. They had gray Beanie Baby elephants. So looked at it, and the only real difference was the color of the animal and the tag that was on the animal had a different name attached to it. So I figured, well, I could rip the tag off, stop by Kroger on the way home, pick up a pack of blue Rit dye, go home, try to dye the little guy blue. So take the guy home, get a 5-gallon bucket up, put the dye in there, put the animal in there, find out pretty quickly the animal's made out of polyester, doesn't hold the dye at all, get him out of that bath, look like he's got the mange. Yeah, that's idiot right here. And but what happens is I rip the lady off. I find a picture of a real one online, post it. She thinks I have the real thing. She wins the bid. As soon as she wins the bid, and I talk about this on my show, I talk about it in presentations. I became without social engineering, cybercrime fails. That's a fact. Unless you can have that element of social engineering, a lot of these cybercrimes that are existent today won't work. Mm-hmm. Well, I became a social engineer as a child to be able to survive the environment that I was in. Those adults around me, they're toxic. You have to know what the hell they're thinking. You have to know what's going on, especially like my granddad chasing people around, all this other shit. You got to be able to know what's going on. You got to try to be able to manipulate those adults. So think of social engineering as that type of manipulation. Online, it's using technology and understanding human psychology to get an individual to give up information, access, data, cash, to get that individual to willingly do what you want them to do. So she wins the bid for this animal, and that social engineering kicks in. I want to put her on the defensive. I don't want to be on the defensive. I want her reacting to what I'm doing. So I send her a message. Hey, lady, never done any business with you before. Don't know if I can trust you. What I need you to do is send me a U.S. postal money order. Now, look, U.S. postal money orders issued by the United States government protects us both. You send that to me, I'll send you your animal. She believed that, didn't ask any questions. Sends me 2 U.S. postal money orders because they just go up to $1,000 a piece. Sends me 2. I cash them out, send her the animal in the mail. Did that under my own name, immediately get a phone call. This is not what I ordered. My response, lady, you ordered a blue elephant. I sent you a blue-ish elephant. And that is really the first lesson of cybercrime that most criminals learn. That being that if you delay a victim, you just keep putting them off over and over and over again. You keep putting these people off, they get exasperated. They throw their hands in the air, walk away. You don't hear from them again, and none of them complain to law enforcement. Now, that's really the first lesson that most cyber criminals learn when they start their crimes. And it's interesting that the good guys, merchants and retailers that cyber criminals typically rip off, or fintech companies, it took them a while to learn that lesson too, because one of the major ways that you can practice security is to delay giving a criminal money in a fintech service or a refund fraud or anything else like that. They found out that if you delay that criminal, they get exasperated. They throw their hands up in the air, walk away. You don't hear from them again, and they can't complain to law enforcement.
Right.
So that's the first crime I committed. My wife, I did it under my own name, kept going, though, because I got away with it. And as I said, I got a lot of inspiration from Bill O'Reilly and Inside Edition. So the next crime I committed, he was doing a show about autographed baseballs. Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire. So I'm sitting there watching. They were selling on eBay for like $80 a piece. I'm sitting there going, shit, I can autograph me some baseballs. So skip class the next.
That seems like an easy one.
Yeah. Skip class the next day, go down to the sports store, walk in, buy a case of baseballs. Stop by Kroger, the same Kroger that had the writ die. Stop by Kroger, pick up a black Sharpie, go home, start signing Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, look at the ball, and I'm like, damn, that's pretty hard to sign a signature on a round object. So I'm like, well, how about a certificate of authenticity? So I print my own certificates of authenticity up. That's that problem solving, you know.
Right.
So print those up, sell all of those on eBay for $60 a pop. And that is when my wife finds out that I'm a criminal. Because what happens is one night, we were living off campus. One night, you get that cop knock at the door, that bam, 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 bam. I'm like, shit. Go up, open the door. Susan is sitting on the couch at this point. So I open the door, and there is Sergeant Pat Tingle and a detective of the Fayette County Sheriff's Office. And I got to know Pat Tingle pretty well. But he looks at me. He's like, are you Brett Johnson? I'm like, yeah. He's like, can we come in? I was like, absolutely. So by this time, Susan stood up. She's not saying anything. She's just standing up. She's looking at them. But then she zeroes in on me. So she stops looking at them completely and just looks at me the entire conversation. So Pat Tingle's like, we'd like to talk to you about some baseballs. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire. I was like, yes, sir. He's like, you're selling them. I'm like, yes. He's like, where'd you get them? I was like, I bought them off eBay. He's like, you bought them off eBay? I was like, yeah, and I'm reselling them. He's like, huh. With certificates of authenticity? Yep. Signed? Yep. Mr. Johnson, we have a sample of their actual autographs down at the station, and that doesn't look anything like that. And I'm like, huh. Well, it comes with certificates of authenticity. Mr. Johnson, we think you printed off those certificates of authenticity. No, sir. And Mr. Johnson, we think you signed those balls. No, sir, I did not. Then Tingle looks at me and is like, Mr. Johnson, you're going to send these people their money back or we're going to put you in jail. Do you understand? I was like, yes, sir. So they leave. The entire time, Susan hasn't said a word to me, just looking dead at me. They leave. I shut the door behind them. Look over at her. You can see it. I mean, she's just pissed, man. Yeah. So I looked at her. I was like, what? And she was like, you son of a bitch. That's why you bought all those goddamn baseballs. And I'm like, yeah. Yeah. So that's when she found out that I was a liar and a criminal.